What's up, dude? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope that everyone had a fun weekend and had a good start to their week. You know, all that good stuff. But today, I have another story for you. So let's jump right into it. On October 11th, 2010, human remains were found by the side of Ocean Parkway in Oak Beach, Long Island, New York. The investigation was started by the search for Shannan Gilbert. She was a 24-year-old who went missing from the area in May that same year after fleeing from a client's home. The 911 call that she made lasted about 23 minutes, and she said, "They're trying to kill me." Shannan was an escort. A month later, the Suffolk County PD's Missing Persons Bureau asked an officer to have their cadaver dog search for Shannan. The officer and his dog were not able to find Shannan in the gated beach community where she had last been seen. She was getting into a dark pickup. Eventually, the dog found a scent that took them to a burlap sack with a decomposing skeleton in it. However, those remains were identified as Melissa Barthelemmy's. As they were trying to find more evidence, they ended up finding 3 more bodies. The 4 women they found in total were Maureen Bernard, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. The next year, in March, partial remains of Jessica Taylor were found along Ocean Parkway, but 8 years before then, in 2003, other parts of her were found in Manorville, which is a town in Suffolk County. Manorville and Long Island are about 20 minutes apart, roughly, so they're pretty close. But what's really odd in this case is that with a lot of the victims, their torsos would be found somewhere else, and the rest of their body would be found, somewhere else. So they had to use, DNA and stuff to try to match the bodies to the parts, and it's very yucky. In May of 2011, the police speculated that because the murders were so similar, Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor, that they may be murdered by a second, separate killer. Not the same killer as the rest of the women. At the time, Valerie Mack wasn't identified. Actually, a lot of these women weren't identified right away. It wouldn't be until a few years later. At the time, in total, there were 10 murdered women in the area. Maureen Bernard, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Karen Vergata, an unidentified woman, Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, an unidentified female toddler, and an unidentified Asian. Now, I don't know why race was really important, but it was mentioned, so I just thought I would mention it here too. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but I've also heard that there were 3 other people that were murdered as well, bringing the total up to 13 total in this case. In November of 2011, police announced that they believed one person was actually responsible for all the murders, and there was a $25,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest in the Long Island murders. After 19 months of being gone, Shannan's remains were found in Oak Beach in December of 2011. Now, I believe all these women were sex workers. I know that a few of them for sure were. A lot of the time, sex workers are targeted because the person that's murdering them thinks that no one cares about them because of what they do for work. However, that is rarely the case. Normally there is a family that's out there looking for them, trying to bring them back home. Just like in the case of Shannan, she had a family that she loved. Her sister openly talks about her. It's not like they disowned her. They thought it was very odd that she didn't return home. She even had a boyfriend who was the one that called her family and was like, "Hey, she didn't come home last night. I don't know where she is." So being an escort, that doesn't necessarily mean that she has sex with the men. Normally that just means you go out on dates and whatnot, but sometimes that can also mean sex. So, but being that she had a boyfriend, I wouldn't be surprised if she just went out on dates. So that is really just the sad truth, though, of sex workers, is that unfortunately people think no one cares about them, when just trust me, that is not the case. So rarely is that actually the case. On December 10th, 2015, the FBI officially joined in on the investigation. In 2020, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart published images of a belt found at the crime scene with the letters HM or WH, depending on which way you're holding the belt. It was a black leather belt. Police thought the belt was worn by the perpetrator and not by any of the victims. It was speculated that convicted murderer. Oh, actually, before I go into this, I should mention that the police chief that was like chief at the time when all this investigation was going on was actually fired because he had been taking bribes and doing a lot of other like really shady things throughout the force. So he was let go, and then that's why like the commissioner jumped in and like kind of took over, and then they had to find somebody else to newly appoint, so that kind of held things up a little bit as well. It was suspected that convicted murderer John Bitrolf, who lived in Suffolk County, was the one who committed some of the Giglago Beach murders, because he had been convicted of killing 2 sex workers already, so it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to think that he did these as well. He was arrested after his DNA was found on 2 of the murdered victims, Rita Tangretti and Colleen McNamee. Now, they got his DNA matched to his brother's, who was also convicted of a crime and was in jail. I think he was convicted in like 2017 or something like that. But yeah, so he was already in jail. John was convicted and sentenced to 25 consecutive years for each of the 2 murders. In July of this year, Rex Andrew Heuermann, I believe is how you say his name, 59 years old, a Nassau County resident, had been arrested in Midtown Manhattan and was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of second-degree murder related to the deaths of Melissa, Maureen, Megan, and Amber. He has chosen to plead not guilty. Rex is an architect who owned his own firm and has lived most of his life in Massapequa Park on Long Island. He also has a wife and kids. In March, the authorities started to look at him as a suspect after they found out that a Chevy Avalanche registered in his name had been linked to one of the murders by a witness. Now, they did do a little bit of digging, and they found that his wife and kids were out of town during one of the murders, so they were like, yeah, I really doubt that they knew anything about it or had anything to do with it. His cell phone records also showed that he had been in contact with 3 or 4 of the murdered women, as well as an email account registered to his name. Court records also indicated that he had searched the internet for sadistic materials, child porn, and images of the victims and their relatives. So that is scary. The burlap sack that was found also had his hair on it. But this is all just coming up this year, so I think it'll be a little bit until we hear anything more about this. I just thought it was a crazy case because, when we think of serial killers, we think of like the 70s or 80s. Not really so much like today. And being a serial killer is just killing like more than I think 2 people, constitutes you as a serial killer. So it's very odd to have a case like this pop up in today's day and age. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just me, but I felt like it was very strange. But that is it for me today. All my case sources are linked down below. Lots of quotes from people that knew the victims. So definitely go give those a read. If you have anything interesting to add to this, definitely comment down below. Subscribe to my channel, but if not, totally cool. Thanks for hanging with me. I hope that you guys have a very safe rest of your day. Go outside, do some grass, make smart choices. Bye, guys.